Hi guys, this is gsnhome.com and I'm here with the Nokia 7.2 handset for a full review. This device that comes with Android One and a pure Android was unveiled at IFA 2019 in Germany, and it comes with a mid-range package and a triple camera. The backside also pretty interesting looking back. Now the price is $350 and we have here the 6GB RAM, 128GB storage version. Okay, so the phone comes in cyan green, charcoal ice, those are the hues it's available in. And well, let's check out the design first. So it measures 8.25 millimeters in thickness and weighs a pretty hefty 180 grams. It's got a glass at the back with a frosted look similar to the OnePlus 6 and the iPhone 11 Pro, and also glass at the front side with, well, I would say not so narrow bezels and a teardrop notch at the top side. The camera is pretty thick. Bump wise, this bump measures around 1 or even 2 millimeters, and I actually like the back, although the phone is a bit more slippery than you'd expect, particularly in landscape mode somehow during gaming. Also, the backside draws less prints than the glossy surface of the Nokia 6.2. Other than that, I would say that the portrait use is rather comfy, even though once again the phone is a bit slippery, so be advised, get a case. And it's also rather tall and a bit wide, so maybe not the most comfortable one-hand usage. Pretty well built. It's got a Google Assistant button on this side here, and here the power button has the LED for notifications integrated with only white light. Now, as far as the screen is concerned, what you're seeing here is a 6.3-inch display IPS LCD with a resolution of Full HD Plus and HDR10 support. I'm going to put this to the test so you can see what this screen has to offer, and let's provide you with 1080p 60 frames per second in this test video. Okay, let's fill the screen. Pretty nice symmetry. I'm not bothered by the Nokia logo. I'm also not very bothered by the teardrop notch. The image is crisp and clear. HDR also helps. It's bright, it's got vivid colors, it's immersive and pleasing. Lovely motion, and that's something that I noticed in intensive movies like action movies. Now let's see what we're dealing with here. You probably know that we do a bunch of tests and they also involve a microscope. This is what the screen is like under the microscope. These are RGB stripes pixels. This is the RGB stripes pixel arrangement. And when it comes to the brightness, I'm happy to tell you we have a pretty solid result. 455 lux units, which means we beat the Xiaomi Redmi Note 8 Pro and the Asus Zenfone 6, but stayed below the Cat S52 and the Galaxy A50. There are settings for the screen. Let's check those out. We go here and display, and we got stuff like brightness level, night light, adaptive brightness, wallpaper, and a few advanced stuff including font size. All in all, a pretty solid screen, one of the first impressive points about this mid-range phone. Now, one of the less impressive points, well, is probably the CPU. It's kind of old. It's the Qualcomm Snapdragon 660. We saw it on the Nokia 7 Plus 2 years ago. 14 nanometers octa-core, accompanied by 4 or 6 GB of RAM, as well as 64 or 128 GB of storage, plus microSD. The good thing is that we're running on a pretty clean Android Pie with the Android One initiative, and the software is pretty lag-free and fluid, aside from the camera interface, but I'm going to get into that later. It can run a ton of games, but I'm sure that in 1 year from now it will not age gracefully. I didn't notice any temperature problems, and these are some of the benchmarks we've taken. In AnTuTu 7, you can see that we beat the Xiaomi Redmi Note 7 and the Huawei Mate 20 Lite, while at the same time we stayed below the Nokia 7 Plus, believe it or not, and the Galaxy A50 or the Motorola One Vision. Let's see, AnTuTu 8, we beat the Galaxy A50 narrowly by 2 points, so basically we didn't even beat it per se. Stayed below the Redmi Note 7 and Redmi Note 8T, so that's that. And this is, by the way, this is Basemark OS 2, excuse me, not AnTuTu 8, this is AnTuTu 8, where we beat the Motorola One Macro and the Redmi Note 7, and we scored below Xiaomi Redmi Note 8T again, Motorola One Action and One Zoom. So it doesn't exactly compete with the 2019 mid-rangers, gets beaten by them, maybe can beat a mid-ranger from a year before. Geekbench 5 multi-core beats Nokia 6.2 and Cat S52, and it stays below. Let's see. Motorola One Zoom, one macro, and then we have high power phones. In the graphical department, where it's all about games, we can beat the Motorola One Action and the Nokia 7 Plus narrowly. At the same time, we stay below the Motorola One Vision and the older Galaxy A9 2018. So that's about it. Benchmarks wise, I'm not very impressed, but I was expecting it, seeing how the processor is, well, old. Okay, so now we have to tackle the temperature aspect, and I'm going to go here again because you probably noticed we have some heat maps. This here shows 33.8 degrees Celsius achieved in gaming, Riptide GP Renegade. In benchmark, we got as high as 35.6 degrees Celsius. Here you can see a variety of heat maps in various moments of the device's usage. I can tell you that the hottest points are around the backside center, but it's well dissipated, so you will not feel heat during gaming, for example. With the performance being rather modest, but actually not being felt like modest in real life usage, we go to the battery. Here we are dealing with a 3500 mAh unit with 5 volt 2 ampere charger, and to be honest, things were a bit of a disappointment because we go here, we can see the battery test, and it starts with a letdown. Only 7 hours and 26 minutes of video playback, which is very poor. Places this phone on the 274th spot all time. It only beats older phones like the Huawei P9 and HTC One and 9. Scores below, well, 200 plus other models, Huawei P20 Lite, Xperia XA, LG Q7, not impressive. Continuous usage is a bit of a letdown again. 8 hours and 16 minutes, 129th spot, underwhelming. Above the OnePlus 6 though, and Razer Phone 2, below the TCL Plex and the Motorola One, the first one. The charging is best okay, 2 hours and 2 minutes, and after 30 minutes you're at 32%, after 1 hour you're at 64%, so I would say tolerable, but overall I feel that the 3500 mAh battery should be enough, but the Nokia optimization, or better said the HMD optimization, has been done poorly, so maybe a software update can fix this issue. On the acoustics front, things are simple. We get a singular speaker here with 2 holes to output the sound. You will not cover it in landscape unless you really want to hold like this, to hold the phone like this. Nobody does that, so there will not be any coverage. There is a custom, well, better said, there's a stock equalizer with 5 custom channels, bass boost, surround sound and all that. But let's leave the music to the, well, musical player and check out the tunes that we have here. Okay, so about the sound, I found the experience to be lacking in bass. The volume was quite high. The notes were well covered, pretty nice highs and okay voices. The sound, well, seems a bit muffled at times, but overall the volume is satisfying. Too bad for the lack of bass. We do have an audio jack here at the top side, and we do have some cheap plasticky headphones, which I don't frankly recommend. They're basically the same that Nokia has been offering for, I don't know, a decade or something like that. Anyways, we did the typical test, you know, the decibel meter one, and came out impressed. 91.2 decibels in an acoustic sample test. It beats even flagships like the Huawei P30 Pro and Xiaomi Mi 90. Stays below the Xiaomi Mi A3 and the Motorola Moto G7 Plus though. Things get even more impressive if you're all about the gaming. In games, it's 101.5 decibels. Once again, impressive. It beats OnePlus 7 Pro and the iPhone 11, and that's got to count for something. Stays below the Galaxy A50 and the Nokia 6.1 though. Time to get serious, time to talk about the camera. Now, at the front side, we get a 20 megapixel shooter with f2.0 aperture, so that's nice to have. The back side, things get interesting. LED flash, 4K video capture. There's a main 48 megapixel camera here, f1.8 aperture, face detection autofocus, and 0.8 micron pixels. There's a quad pixel technology. There's the Zeiss optics, 8 megapixel ultra wide camera, and a 5 megapixel camera for good measure, well, basically for bokeh. You can take a raw capture, night capture, portrait capture, and once again, the interface is a bit on the slow side to be honest. It's time to go to the gallery now and see some of the photos we've taken using the handset's 4 cameras, 3 at the back, 1 at the front. And here we go. So, starting during the daytime. Well, I have to say, it's January, it's rather hot and sunny. And one of the things I noticed is that the ultra-wide camera distorts the colors and slightly overexposes the image. In general, the colors were okay with the main camera, and so were the details and the clarity. So if you stick to 48 megapixels, you'll be happy with the results. Of course, the zoom is lacking. I'm talking about digital zoom. I would have preferred the telephoto camera instead of the ultra-wide one, if I'm being honest. I remember the Nokia 7.2 had an amazing zoom. And even though in this series of shots, you'll see that the zoom is actually okay, it's an exception rather than a rule. And here you can see the HDR in action, doing a fine job of getting rid of a sky which has weird colors. Okay, we go further, we find more colorful items. I'm generally impressed with the clarity here, the details and the color calibration, even though the ultra-wide shots not the best on account of the color deformation. They may not have curved sides, but the colors get deformed pretty bad. Okay, now we went into some close-ups with an excellent texture of the metal. You can almost taste the rust. So the focus in close-up is pretty okay. Even though we actually missed it a bunch of times, you often get it right. We also did a bokeh, and I was happy with the separation of the foreground and the background. So bokeh fares okay. And we did it again, this time with a subject that's, well, seems like it was invented for bokeh shots, and I'm pretty impressed overall. So if you stick to the 40 megapixel camera, you'll be fine, but overall things are a bit hit and miss, mostly because of the ultra-wide camera. A few more shots here. We tried the picture-in-picture, we tried the splitting dual picture option. It was still a cold day in spite of the sun, so excuse the hat. Now every once in a while the reds will feel a bit pink, and the exposure in the background not the best. Dynamic range also may cause problems when the sun is a bit too strong, like here everything is white in the background. Okay, we tried some close-ups, takes a few attempts, but you'll get flagship worthy close-ups. Even more colors, even more bokehs of ducks with good separation. I left the selfies for last because you don't want to keep your hat off too much during a very cold day, and I'm pretty impressed by it. You can actually see the texture of the skin, the beard, the Huawei headphones in my ears, and the marks left by the hat on the head, which is a funny little gimmick to see. Okay, so here we have the bokeh with pretty good separation, except for some threads of hair at the top. The wind was blowing, so there's that. Nice texture of the clothes, and not bad for a mid-range phone. Take selfies of this caliber, not that bad. Still, it's a 20 megapixel camera, so I was kind of expecting it. And it's weird that it didn't catch the threads of hair, but I'm fine with it. Nobody has the hair like that anyway, except for the strong wind. Okay, now let's talk about the low light pictures. Okay, so just before we get to the nighttime samples, a bit of a conclusion. This phone is maybe able to fight the Motorola One Vision, also the Motorola One Action, but the ultra-wide camera is a bit of a disappointment. I would say it can fight the Galaxy A50, but it's closer to the Galaxy A40, even though I like the selfies better than the Galaxy A series cheaper phones. I would say it's on par with the Xiaomi Mi A3, and let's leave it at that. And now we go to the low light shots, and we change town. And once again, the ultra-wide camera disappoints. I would recommend to sticking to the main one for sure. Also, circumstances were not the best, some fog here and there, and we do have our fair share of blurry shots, but we also have some good ones. The definition of the Nokia 7.2 camera is not constant. It can produce great shots, but also disappointing ones. That's something that defines the whole experience. So it's an okay camera with okay way of capturing the light sources, except for the moment when you use the ultra wide shooter. And if you don't have any fog, you can actually take some decent shots. The zoom remains pretty poor. Once again, at the level of a Galaxy A40 and A50 at best. Now, if you want to talk about the video, we have a special app, so let's use that. MX Player Pro, and we have 11 videos, quite a few if you ask me. Let's turn down the volume a bit because we did catch some wind and it was blowing pretty hard. Okay, so first video, It's Full HD, it's MP4, and the microphone could not face the wind in an okay fashion. A bit of overexposure here, the colors are a bit too intense for my taste. Nice clarity but poor details, and every now and then throughout our videos there was some refocusing. Okay, so video number 2 is all about the walking, filming in motion. Now, not the worst I've seen, however also not the best. Things are shaky. You can see the lighting change with each step. At least there's no annoying flicker, but actually there is one, but not as well perceived as the one of a Motorola Moto G7 or G7 Plus. So there's that. Okay, so decent at best, and then we go further, we go here. This is a 4K clip, looks pretty crisp. I actually don't have any complaints here. The sky, well, is maybe a bit turquoise instead of blue, and also a bit white at times, but the clarity is excellent. The camera handles motion okay. There is a bit of shakiness, which is to be expected. And we do have some color. We wanted to catch some color here. Not the best dynamic range. Very intense colors. Once again, the red is a pink, but the blues are okay, and the sky is white yet again. Do not, I repeat, do not film in ultra wide here. It's totally disappointing and I don't recommend it. And I was impressed by the selfie camera again, this time in filming. I know it seems like the exposure is flickering a bit, but I'm happy with the clarity here. Also happy with the texture of the face. To be honest, not that bad. Even the stabilization was fine in my book, better than expected. Okay, so these are all the videos we've taken, a 4K one for a taste at the end. Well, not the worst mid-range phone video capture I've seen, but definitely below the Galaxy A50, maybe on par with the Motorola Moto G7 and Motorola One Vision at best. Now, low light video capture, of course, don't have great expectations from it. It was foggy. We did take an okay panning. There are some reflections, things are pretty shaky, we are walking around. The thing you notice is that there's a lot of grain and noise and a flicker and a poor zoom, but the colors are on the okay side. Too bad for the fog and the winter, otherwise things may have gotten more interesting, maybe. Another video here. On the small screen it looks okay, but if you watch it on a big screen you can see a ton of noise and grain, so not that impressive. Honestly, as a conclusion for the whole camera, I remember that the Nokia 7 Plus from 2 years ago impressed me much more in the zoom and video department. So let's leave it at that. On the connectivity front, it's a dual SIM phone with nano SIM card slots with Wi-Fi dual band, Bluetooth 5.0, Wi-Fi direct, there's GPS, there's GLONASS and Galileo, and BDS. NFC on board, FM radio and USB-C at the bottom. One microphone here and one here, so 2 mics on board. The calls were pretty okay in clarity and I would say so-so in loudness. And we also did a bunch of speed tests, so let's see how those ended up. Okay, so we should have some screenshots here. Here we go, those are the values we achieved, and I would say they're pretty close to flagships. On 4G we have 223 megapixel downloads and 64.5 megapixel uploads, not bad at all. And on Wi-Fi, 215 megapixel downloads and 24.7 megapixel uploads, not bad at all. On the software front, it's clean and stock Android Pie with the Android One experience, which means you're going to be getting software updates for 2 years, Android 10 and 11, and security updates for 3 years. Other than that, we have a Google Assistant button here on the side, ready to aid us with our needs. You can say coffee nearby. And also we have stock user interface. You can recognize all the icons and widgets that are typical for a phone with a custom, not custom, but rather vanilla experience. Okay, we have the Google tailored home screen on the leftmost side. You already saw the widgets. Here you already know the finicky multitasking that came with Android Pie. And there's also the option of, you know it, split screen, which some people may use, probably. Okay, on the top side you can find the quick settings and notifications in a beautiful hue of blue, gray and white, pretty clear and here you can see the settings. Nothing fancy, not out of the ordinary. We got the digital well-being here with parental control, and the security is pretty okay in my book. We have the fingerprint scanner here. It's a bit slow, but rather accurate with the unlocking of the screen when I press this button at the back side. Now, if you're wondering about other things we're mentioning, you can see here the pre-installed apps, just the usual Google package. You got the Chrome, you got the Drive, Duo, you got your Gmail, your Google One, your Lens, Maps, and so forth. So nothing out of the ordinary, clean and stock. I honestly would have liked to see Android 10 on it, but well, hasn't happened just yet. Now it's time for the verdict. Okay, so it's verdict time, so it's actually also a good time to show you our website. Let's go to gsndom.com. Here we go. On the pro side of the phone, it's got a cute backside for sure with a frosted look. It's also got a pretty bright screen. I kept it cranked up to something like 60% or 70% in this review. So bright screen, cute backside, a pretty loud speaker at the bottom. The 4K video capture is pretty good, I would say, and also good are the main camera pictures in detail and clarity. Some solid selfies and selfie videos, fast connectivity, and a clean and stock user interface. On the con side, it's got an old CPU, let's face it, a rather poor battery or badly optimized, poor ultra-wide capture all around. I don't like the way this ultra-wide camera behaves, some refocusing during video, a generic design. If you look at it from the front and the back and you're really honest with yourself, it's a bit generic. It's also a bit slippery, and the camera is not constant. You may see other reviews where the camera has been fantastic and others where it has been very poor. So it depends on what they cherry-picked to show you. So not a constant camera at all. In the end, this is a media phone more than anything else because it has the following advantages. It has an excellent screen, a very loud speaker at the bottom, and it takes nice selfies. Those are all things that the Billie Eilish generation will use. They prefer music, video, and of course taking selfies. So if you want those, the phone is actually good for you. Otherwise, well, the battery is rather poor, and also the camera at the back is beaten by the Galaxy A40 and A50 in quite a few sections. It can maybe compete with the Motorola One Vision, and I'm not even sure about that. And the price is a bit high compared to rivals. I mean, the Xiaomi Mi A3 offers a partially better package in a much more affordable well, price tag. Too bad for the optimization of the battery, otherwise I would have recommended it, but like this, definitely needs more battery, and at best this is a media phone which you'll have to charge at about 7 or 8 in the afternoon or in the night. This has been the review of the Nokia 7.2 from gsndom.com. Hope you enjoyed it. So the battery is a drawback, but if you want a media phone, you can have it. Bye bye.